So I would like you to think about a conversation that you've had in the past that you consider to be bad. A difficult conversation. And it could have been you or somebody else who failed to deliver the message in a professional, effective way. I hope it doesn't trigger anything, because it might be that you were fired in a very unprofessional way, or that you were trying to say something towards your colleague and it turned into a fight. But for some of you, it could be that a difficult conversation is deciding what to watch on Netflix with your partner every night. So, what we see as difficult conversations varies, and how we approach them, that is different for everybody because we have our own background and we have our own experiences. But the fact is that you will have difficult conversations. And it's my honor here today to share some of the techniques that you might already know, but I'm here to make you more aware of it. The techniques that you can use either to prepare for those conversations, to use during, or to use afterwards to reflect on them. And maybe you do that sometimes. We have this moment of reflection. You know, you might be driving in your car and then you're thinking about, in your car, or maybe you're already at home, like, what happened? Almost like a movie, you think about that conversation and you hear what the other person is saying and you almost see what's going on and you think about what you were saying, and then it hits you, why didn't I say that? Why didn't I come up with that clever line at that moment? And that is normal, because with difficult conversations, we will have emotions. There will be stress. And emotions, they have primacy. Due to evolutionary reason, we will give emotions primacy and it will reduce our thinking. So when that moment hits us, what can we do to become better at the conversation at that moment? We need some ground principles for that. The first one would be that the best conversations take place with comfort for both parties. And I see this all the time. You know, people have something they want to share. Sometimes they really focus just on themselves. I have a message, and I want you to listen to me. And they have their own emotions, and they're not taking the other person into consideration. Or they're fully focused on the other person. It's all about you. I don't mind, as long as you're happy, as long this is okay for you. But we need comfort for both parties, as comfortable as possible, because then you will have better conversations. The second one is know your role, know your goal. Because your role is important. If you're giving feedback to your child, that is completely different than if I'm a manager giving feedback to my colleagues. And defining that role is essential, because it might be that you shouldn't even have that difficult conversation at all. I mean, maybe you shouldn't give feedback to a client, for instance. But also your goal. Why am I having that conversation in the here and now? Is it to blurt something out, or should I take the long term into consideration? And if I have defined that goal, am I sticking to it during the conversation, or am I deviating from it? So all important things. And also the best conversations, it's so important to have effective communication through observation. You have to look at the other person. And again, I see this in my line of work. People prepare it, they have written things down, and they're just staring at the paper in front of them, not making eye contact, for instance, with the other person. So observing the other person, but also not observing themselves. What am I doing? What am I portraying? We want to do all of this because we need better cooperation, better collaboration, and a better connection. Because when we have a better connection, you will have better conversations. So what we can do during a conversation, when we prepare it, during or afterwards, is look at 3 themes, so to say. So the way you can look at conversations. And the first element in there would be content. That is something we sometimes prepare. You know, you think about what you're going to say, maybe you write things down, maybe some numbers you want to get across. But the other 2, usually people don't really prepare for it. That would be, for instance, the procedure. Something like, when am I going to have this conversation? Is Monday morning the best time? maybe I should wait until Wednesday afternoon. Or how long do I have for this conversation? Can I share this in 5 minutes? Or maybe I should take an hour in the agenda to have time for this conversation. Or where am I going to have the conversation? Should it be in the privacy of an office? Or maybe I should go for a stroll? That's the procedure. The other one is the interaction, and that has everything to do with the behavior. What are you showing? What are you portraying? And are you fully aware of the person that you're having the conversation with? Is this somebody who needs it factual, like quick, short, precise? Or maybe this person is a bit more emotional and I should give them more allowance to vent, for instance. And what we should do, and I call this the helicopter metaphor technique, is be better at the conversation and navigating through it more effectively, almost like a pilot. And when we see the helicopter as a metaphor, it's something we can do. We can be the pilot navigating through it. For instance, a helicopter can fly backwards. So you can go back in the conversation. What was it that you just said? Can you repeat it one more time? Or, for instance, you can zoom in very specifically, fly very low with a helicopter. Why are you using that word? Why is it that you say that specifically? Be careful for baggage. If you put too much baggage, if you drag in the past or all those kind of things, the helicopter will get unbalanced. And, for instance, the helicopter can fly very high. You need to be observing all the 3 elements all the time. Am I aware that the content is still in order? Am I saying what I want to say? Is the procedure still okay? Need I to adjust something? And how about the interaction? This is something that you will get afterwards at the conference, so you can take a picture, but you will get a card, the old-fashioned way. Let's zoom in on the interaction a little bit more. So, coined by Joe Navarro, the comfort-discomfort paradigm. We as humans will show you how we feel during difficult conversations, but you have to pick up on it. You know this, but you have to be aware of it. Make sure that you also look for trustworthiness, so trust, and intention. Because if you don't trust somebody, a difficult conversation maybe shouldn't take place. But also, do you show trust? Are you interacting in a genuine way? And do you say what you mean, and do you mean what you say? But also intention, because somebody might say something with content that is very harsh, but it can come from love, tough love. Or somebody might say something, but you know that they have had a terrible week, so that the content might be awful, but you know that the intention might be different, and we have to take that into consideration. We also have to take culture into consideration. We're all from different backgrounds. I'm Dutch. I might be a bit more blunt than the British people. But also, but not only from an anthropological point of view, also from a business culture. So if I'm working in like banks or finance, that's different, for instance, than in healthcare. We have to understand that. But still, there are a lot of things that are generic that how we can have better conversations. So, for instance, observe and use your body language. Look at the other person, make sure you see them, and use your body language to adjust during the conversation. You might see pacifying behaviors. So that's all the things like fidgeting, nail biting, touching the hair, that might be an indication of discomfort. You might also see a furrowed glabella, when somebody's looking at you like that, I don't know. It might be an indication that they do not agree with you, that they're a bit critical about it. You might see people crying. So when I work in businesses, a lot of people are very uncomfortable with people crying, or even when they're crying themselves during difficult conversations. But it's just a form of communication. Don't worry about it, we're only humans, but it might be an indication that we need to do something if we pick up on those signals. And that could be using our body to express calm. So how do we do this? First, eye contact. You can use eye contact in many different ways, but please look at the other person. Also, when it's online, look at the camera, don't look at your phone, don't look out of the window. Make sure that you are interacting with this person. You know this, but a lot of people don't do it. They're typing in as we speak. So what might be taking notes, that would be great. But what we see is that eye contact can also help if it's really, when there's a lot of emotion going on, it might even be effective to look away for a bit, just to break eye contact to show that you're not a threat. So would be the only reason why you're not making eye contact that intensely. You can also think about proximity. So if you come very close, that somebody could be really intimidated about that. So if somebody's emotional, just give them space, really make sure that they have room to interact with you, and also take care of your body, like ventral denial. So if I'm standing towards like this, it's different than I'm standing like this. Yeah. So I can use my body to express calm. A touch. It's a bit controversial, but it's the first language we learn. As a baby, you were held in comfort by somebody, I hope. But we can also use it, and if you don't really want to touch somebody, you can also kind of mimic it. This is a very safe area, but if somebody's emotional, you can say, hey, I hope you're okay, I'm here for you. That's a very safe one. But sometimes we just need a hug. It's okay to hug people, but make sure that you understand when it's appropriate, of course. The head tilt and the smile. It's such a lovely thing you can do. Like the head tilt is this, and smile, if appropriate, of course, it can show a very nice, comfortable way, like I'm here for you, I'm listening to you. Do some head nodding, all those kind of things that can help the other person to show comfort, and it will comfort you as well. Please listen to the other person. Make sure it's not a monologue like I'm having today right now. Make sure there's turn yielding, so you ask questions, that you listen to the person, and that you're also giving them time to vent, to say something, and pick up on what they are saying. Because we have to listen to the primacy and emphasis. What are they saying, and when are they saying it? So if somebody says, I'm really stressed for the new task you gave me, make sure you understand it's they're really stressed. It's not focused on the task only. And if we hear that, make sure you use the same language. So you're not saying, oh, so you don't like your job anymore. No, I was talking about that I'm really stressed about that specific task. Make sure that you do that and use your voice. So when somebody's a bit stressed, you can lower your voice and make it more calm. Validate, very important. You don't have to agree with somebody, but make sure that you kind of summarize. I can understand this is difficult. I understand that this must be hard for you. Validate what they are saying. Try to summarize it, but also that they know that you've heard them. Difficult conversations are difficult, and that is not something that you can change. And it's difficult to do this. It's an art, It's not like you go to do this every day. And as a sidetrack, and it's not about, I always want to share this because it's a little bit of a sidetrack, but if you're working in an environment with toxic people, so if we're talking about the narcissist or the emotionally unstable, that calls for more different skills. And all I want to say about this is safety first, please, and seek help. You can always ask me something or email me when you're in that setting, because that are different, difficult conversations than what we're talking about right now. For all the other conversations, we have to understand that we have an effect on others and others have an effect on us. But it's our duty, I would say, it's our job as a professional to become better at it and to understand that we can do something to change it. And there are 50 things you can do, but I've summarized it to 4 for you guys to remember the takeaways, as my previous speaker said. The first one would be think, not just digital, but think about the fact that you will have a conversation coming up, that emotions might happen, and that you should put on your thinking cap more than the emotional way of interacting. The thinking is important. Prepare. Show up. Make sure that you prepare yourself. Dress up, but also prepare your facts. What do I want to say? How am I going to say it? What kind of elements am I going to use from the helicopter metaphor? observe not just the other person, but also yourself. What am I doing? What am I portraying? And is that still effective for the communication that is going on? Should I change something? And last but not least, empathize. Because we're all humans, we don't like to have difficult conversations, but if you have to have them and you have the possibility to make it a tiny bit easier for both parties, you might make the world a tiny little bit better, and that would be the goal. So, thank you so much.
I've found this topic to be really fascinating, only because it's something that we will all have to do at multiple times in our life, and obviously to some extent, as the more senior you get, the more likely you're going to be having them, and the more meaningful they're likely to be. And it's amazing that, as far as I know, I don't think I've ever had a lesson about difficult conversations until just now. So thank you for that. You know. So, and thank you for the offering the four things. Is there because I think the vast majority of people in the room may not have even thought about difficult conversations, right? Other than having been subjected to them or having to have them. Is there a first place to start as you kind of, try to develop yourself? And I know you offer four things, but is there like a fundamental kind of like either mindset change or a skill development thing, or, for your clients, like what's the first thing you tend to take them through to make the biggest impact?
That's a great question. I think if you start with observing your own behavior, like who am I, what triggers me maybe, what makes me comfortable, what makes me uncomfortable, then you can pick up on it with other people more.
Okay.
So if you understand, oh, this is scary to me, how is that for other people?
Sure.
You become more aware about the behavior. But when it comes to difficult conversation, I think it's also a bit about stress reduction. Mm-hmm. So making sure that you know that it's not just about you, that might be very effective. So that's one of the things, like how am I when I get stressed, or how can I reduce the stress?
Sure.
And then that would be the thing.
Yeah, of course. So I mean, like a little bit like being a founder, actually, you start with you first,
yes.
And then if you figure yourself out, and then from there you can kind of extend and hopefully be better. I mean, one of the things, maybe because we are so poorly trained at difficult conversations, that there's the practice of ghosting, which I know started in dating, mm-hmm. but seems to be something that happens in many contexts.
You want to talk about it? No. Sorry.
No, it's all the speakers who never get back to me. That's the issue. But on the one side, you can say, "Oh, that's horrible." At this point, obviously, I've just accepted that that's going to be on the radar of things, and to have long since given up the, I guess to some extent, take the hint that that they're not going to respond. Is that something that actually is a valid or something that you should actually actively consider? Because sometimes actually having that difficult conversation, I mean, a lot of people do it out of cowardice, right? They'll just go, "Oh, look, I can't face this difficult conversation. I'm just going to just make myself busy or not be available in one way or the other," sort of thing. I'm assuming probably that's something you're advising people to not actively do, or is it actually a valid choice?
To ghost someone?
To just totally avoid a difficult conversation.
Well, that depends. So again, when you have toxic situations, that might be a very good situation to just avoid the person and to say, this is not safe at all, to have the conversation. Okay. Yeah. But I see this, so even up to the point where I work with CEOs, for instance, they do not want to interact sometimes in a certain setting. That is not professional at all. Okay. Because in a way, we understand it because we want to avoid it, so we don't go into this. But the fact is, if you have those conversations, you can grow from it. Not just you as a person, but the business can become better because you're addressing things that can, if you don't address it, it doesn't improve. Yeah. And one of the things that I experience in my job all the time is kind of nudge people, because if we prepare for it, they feel less stressed. So, who's this person? What do you need to say? If you have to address a group, it's different as well. So ghosting is, I would say, only valid if it is that emotional that it's unsafe. Sure. And in the end, it it will be a problem because you're not addressing what is needed. And, and conflict, in a way, is growth as well, as long as you do it in a caring way.
Sure.
Yeah.
In fact, it sounds like to me that if you were involved in, increasingly more and more people in the audience would be involved in helping to choose a leader of either a group or an organization. And my guess is that relatively few of us think, how will they handle these difficult conversations? But that actually probably should be towards the top of a list, because you can be as charming as heck, you can be as visionary and inspiring and blah, 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 blah. But then inevitably, if you're in any kind of meaningful leadership position, you will have to have these conversations, and how you handle them. Yeah,
and you have to lead by example. So sometimes somebody asks me, hey, my team is not working effectively, can you train the team? But then I'm starting with them first, like what's happening? What are you maybe avoiding? What are you saying or not saying? So that's very important.
So you bring up one major caveat, which you brought up at the beginning of the questioning here, which is around toxic situation. Yeah. So when does one know that this is like, you know, you're dealing with a client, and I'm sure there have probably been cases where you think this is actually, you need to actually like get out of this situation. So like, I mean, you know, obviously it's horrible, but is there like a kind of clear sign? Because I'm sure there are situations where people don't actually realize this is just like way beyond the bounds of normality.
Well, this is why the body is so interesting to me. So we've all had this moment. People call it intuition, but we have neurons in our stomach. So there are these moments that you feel like, ooh, this doesn't feel okay. This is not okay. This is the same neurons that we have in our brain. Right. So they give a signal to us. And if you like, this is a beautiful book, The Gift of Fear. So your body picks up on it. This is not okay. This is unsafe.
Right.
And so that could be a very big.
So literally the gut feeling.
The gut feeling, indeed.
Right.
But also when you talk about it, either with colleagues or friends, or people know. The fact is that they just don't know how to deal with it, or there might be justification going on. Oh, that's just a person. You shouldn't be sad about it, or that's okay. It's just that person. Okay. But within a professional organization, I think if you see certain behavior, whatever behavior it is, you have to address it, even if it's difficult. And if you can't address it, that might be a toxic setting then.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you.